Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, I should be saying ho, 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 because it is episode 44, where we are going to be talking Red One, a movie that everyone, and I speak for everyone, is so excited for. In fact, we've all been watching Red Notice on Netflix every day for the last 4 years to be getting ready for this movie. You would think Ryan Reynolds would be in this pile of dog crap, but no, Chris Evans beat him to the punch. How we doing, everybody? I feel like it's been a crazy couple of weeks, and Trump assembling his evil cabinet of literally the worst people possible. The only highlight out of that is seeing all these hilarious posts about these characters. Like, I've seen some good ones like Job from Arrested Development, Roman Roy, and all these great characters being tweeted about that they're being hired in Trump's cabinet. I think I'm getting sick again, unfortunately. I feel like tonight after Red One, which I literally got out of 2 hours ago, came home, wrote my notes, and I've immediately started recording. It is 11 p.m. and it's fun for me. I get to talk about Red One. I swear to God, did I call it Red Notice there? That's probably going to happen a lot this episode. Couple things to plug / take note of before we get into the news, which there's tons of today. Some Denis Villeneuve stuff, some hilarious Onion news, some Penguin viewership, which we're going to talk about. I've recorded a bunch of reviews for all my social medias, which I'm going to be putting out slowly. So the social media is all linked below. You can follow on all of my accounts. As well, there's timestamps below or chapters. If you're on YouTube, you can scroll between the chapters of this or on any of your streaming devices. So you can see the spoiler section, the non-spoiler sections. If you don't want to know any spoilers for Red One, I almost called it Red Notice, then you can happily avoid the spoiler section and just enjoy the non-spoilers. All right, let's get into the news. So Quentin Tarantino last week was being an asshole as per usual and was talking about how he refuses to watch Denis Villeneuve's Dune. He doesn't want to watch Shogun because I've done that. This is my Quentin Tarantino impression. Well, I've actually done that. I watched the Shogun show in the 80s. I watched all 13 hours. I'm good. I watched David Lynch's Dune. I read the books. I'm good. That's either Richard Kind or Quentin Tarantino. That could be either one of those. Well, Denis Villeneuve has responded saying, "I don't care if Quentin Tarantino refuses to watch Dune, but what I did was not a remake. I see this as an original," which I think he is completely correct. So Quentin Tarantino, he called it a remake, and Denis Villeneuve was completely right. He said, "I don't care. It's true. I agree with him that I don't like this idea of recycling and bringing back old ideas, but where I disagree is that what I did is not a remake. It's an adaptation of the book. I see this as an original." To which he added, "We are very different human beings." Yeah, I think Villeneuve and Tarantino are literally the polar opposites director-wise and ego-wise. Look, I don't think Villeneuve really clapped back or anything like that. I think he was very respectful and kind of jokey. Everybody was laughing and he seemed very happy about it. And I think Quentin Tarantino, he's a bit of a goof and a bit of a jerk, and also I think he's a bit of a loser as well. Like his 10 film rule or whatever, I think is kind of pointless. Like, you haven't really made bad movies yet. Stop enforcing yourself to these random rules that you're thinking of. I don't know. He's just a very odd guy. I don't think he's very humble. I think he's kind of a bit of a, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, just a bit of a goof, and I think Villeneuve was very measured in his response. He sent the family atomics back at him, but I do think, of course, Tarantino does have a point about all these remakes, remaking great movies, but you can't tell me Denis Villeneuve's movie is a remake. His version of Dune is so different to the David Lynch version. It is even very different to the books. You can't tell me he hasn't drastically changed the stories with the timelines and how quick things are happening, as well as how characters evolve towards the end. Chani specifically is who I'm thinking of, and Princess Irulan or Aaliyah. There's so many different things in the Villeneuve version versus the book and Lynch's version as well. Yeah, that news came out last week, 2 hours after I recorded, and I was so bummed I couldn't talk about it, so I had to get it in there, as well as some other Dune news to talk about. The Film and Television Industry Alliance website has officially added Dune Messiah to its production schedule. So it's currently slated as in development / pre-production, and this was last updated on November 11th. Its shoot date is August 4th, 2025, but the project summary, we get a project summary. Dune Messiah follows Paul Atreides, now Emperor Muad'Dib, navigating his immense power while battling political foes and a conspiracy within his circle. As House Atreides faces collapse, the real danger emerges for Paul's lover, Chani, and their unborn heir. Dun dun dun. So yeah, it sounds like they're sticking kind of close to Dune Messiah. I mean, the fact that it's titled Dune Messiah says it all, but you can't really spoil it because there's going to be a trailer out and it's going to be revealed, and that's the synopsis. So if you're going to know anything about the movie going in, that's what's going to be said. And of course, there's like 5 other books that they're going to draw from, or they could draw from. I am very curious what Villeneuve, how he's going to slow down that timeline, but also his sister, Paul's sister, is way younger than him in the book. What's the deal there? Is there going to be some weird powers where she ages like twice the speed of everyone else? Because if you're going to get Anya Taylor-Joy to be Aaliyah, Princess Aaliyah, right? That's her name. I can't remember. It's been forever since I read Messiah. It's been like 5 months now. But if you're going to get Anya Taylor-Joy, like, you don't want to waste her and only have her show in one scene in Dune Part 2 and then recast her for a younger actor. Unless she was like promised, like, oh yeah, eventually they're going to get to Children of Dune. You'll have, 4-film contract or whatever to show up in Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune. Yeah, I'm very interested what Villeneuve's going to do time-wise, especially Chani stayed on Arrakis, so we're getting to 12-year time jumps. Has she like brought back all Fremen or something like that and has her own group of warriors? Is she a military leader now? But the fact that that description said unborn heir, I think that description, now that I'm thinking about it, might be quite inaccurate. They're unborn heir. If it's going to be a 12-year time jump, what are they going to have, an unborn 12-year-old? That just doesn't really make sense to me. So I don't know. It's confusing because like Princess Irulan as well is involved, and I don't want to really talk about what happens in the book because that really does spoil the movie. And I think it's really fun if you do go into Dune Messiah kind of blind. So I'm curious what's going to happen. It does worry me that it's filming in August because the Batman Part 2, as we've talked about, is filming next year. I want Greg Fraser to do that project. I would rather he did the Batman Part 2, which I think is more integral cinematography wise, needs Greg Fraser to really kind of keep that world and those visuals alive, versus Dune Messiah, tonally very different book from Dune, the first book. So if it does look different visually, like, you can get an equally gifted cinematographer, and I think it will look just as good even if it's different visually. So I don't know, August 2025, it's looking pretty insane. It's going to be a crazy summer for Zendaya. Actually, speaking of Zendaya quickly, this isn't in my news stories, but I don't think I mentioned it last week. Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, and Lupita Nyong'o have all been cast in Christopher Nolan's next movie with Tom Holland and Matt Damon. Apparently Zendaya's role, very minimal, a few minutes, if even a few minutes. It's filming next summer. It's been described as a cameo from what I understand. She's also doing Spider-Man like right before that. Same with Tom Holland. I think they're doing Spider-Man and then Christopher Nolan's movie. And then she's going to have to move on to Dune Messiah as well, because she's definitely going to play a huge part in that, given how Dune Part 2 ended. I'm liking the cast for Christopher Nolan's movie a lot already. You guys remember like the 3 months of whatever of Oppenheimer casting announcements, how it just seemed like everybody was joining that cast. It was like, oh, Cillian Murphy's going to lead. That's really cool. Emily Blunt. Oh, Robert Downey Jr. Oh, okay. And then it was like, whatever, Josh Peck and Jack Quaid. It just like person after person after person after person. Florence Pugh. People were going nuts for months over the last Christopher Nolan movie. So this one's pretty crazy. But let's move into a hilarious story today. Satire publication The Onion has bought Alex Jones's InfoWars at auction with Sandy Hook Oh my God, the AP Press is playing an ad. You guys hear that? Sorry. Satire publication The Onion buys Alex Jones's InfoWars at auction with Sandy Hook family's backing. So the satirical news publication The Onion was named the winning bidder for Alex Jones's InfoWar at a bankruptcy auction this Thursday, backed by families of Sandy Hook Elementary school shooting victims whom Jones owes more than $1 billion in defamation judgments for calling the massacre a hoax. So within hours of the announcement about The Onion's winning bid, InfoWars website was down and Jones was broadcasting from what he said was a new studio location. So this is hilarious. There's already been like a few other rumblings of what The Onion's going to do with InfoWars. It's going to turn into a really big like satirical newscast. Actually, my friend and I just last weekend before SNL were watching. The Onion used to put out sketches and stuff, like really high budget sketches on YouTube, and we were watching a bunch of like The Onion News Network that makes fun of, broadcast TV and broadcast news. So damn funny. So that's what InfoWars is now going to be on The Onion. It's going to be a right-wing satire satire, dunking on all this ridiculous Republican and right-wing shit that's happening. I think this is a genius. I didn't believe it. I thought it was an Onion article when I first came up. I was like, shut the hell up. There is no way. And I saw a hilarious tweet today that was like, the fact that the families were approached by the Onion and being like, hey, we want to buy this and like ruin Alex Jones and just make fun of this. What do you guys think? And I think it took away from the payout for the Sandy Hook victim families. Crazy. And then they agreed. They were like, yeah, that sounds hilarious. That's funny as hell to me as well. In some more hilarious irony that was reported, TJ Miller called Ryan Reynolds a good friend now, 2 years after saying, I would not work with him again. Returning for Deadpool 4 would be awesome. So yeah, a couple of years ago, TJ Miller said Ryan Reynolds was super mean to him on set, when in reality, I think Ryan Reynolds just told him to like tone it down and stop being an asshole to everyone. Well, TJ Miller has now said, we talked a little while ago. I think he's just been such a good friend right now that I think it would be really awesome returning for Deadpool 4. So Miller has been arrested for allegedly making a fake bomb threat on Amtrak trains. Also, he was accused of sexual assault in 2017 after he had already filmed his stuff for Deadpool 2. Miller was also accused in 2018 of bullying his Silicon Valley co-star Alice Wetterland on set, which he denied. He was not asked to return as Weasel in Deadpool and Wolverine. And that's when he said that Reynolds was horrifically mean to me while in character as the foul-mouthed superhero on the Deadpool set. But to me, as if I'm Weasel. He was like, you know what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star, but you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie. I just kind of listened and thought it was weird, and then I got off stage because they were like, cut? That's exactly why he said that. Because I'm not funnier than he is at all, right? And I have been in more movies than him. Would I work with him again? No. Anyways, that's what he said 2 years ago, and now he's basically begging for a job again. TJ Miller also said, I sort of wish him well because he's so good at Deadpool, and I think it's weird that he hates me. He also called Ryan Reynolds an insecure dude. He's such a good comedian that when you cover his face, he's so quick, he's so funny. I love him as a comedian, but I think after he got super famous from his first Deadpool, then things kind of changed. Look, TJ Miller is an absolute scumbag, and I think now he's actually going the opposite way of Zachary Levi, who is now gone down the right-wing pipeline and is literally spewing toxic shit on X. Yeah, TJ Miller's kind of going the opposite direction and trying to repair his image by complimenting everyone and like now begging for work, much like Zachary Levi is, but he's not going down the right-wing pipeline. But anyways, let's finish the news on a positive note. The Penguin viewership did something rather stunning for HBO, Forbes reported. So now that the season 1 finale of The Penguin has aired, we have new data that 2.1 million viewers watched it the day of. That's a 10% jump from the previous week's 1.9 million and a stunning 50% increase from the day 1 premiere of the series, though over time that has grown to 17 million viewers as people have caught up. The Penguin is the third most watched HBO or Max show in terms of its first season, behind The House of Dragon and The Last of Us. The Penguin, of course, has the Batman in its corner. That's absolutely nuts to me, but you know what? I wasn't at all surprised when I read that. Everyone online, I haven't seen a single negative thing about The Penguin. Everyone that has given it a chance has absolutely loved it. I really hope more people give it a chance. I mean, I recorded my review about it today that I'm going to post on social media, and I was just like, is there anything I don't like about this show? No, it didn't need Batman. I didn't feel like it was missing anything. Maybe it could have mentioned Batman, like people could have been scared of him, but like they say at the start of the Batman, it's a big city. Batman can't be everywhere. He's not as much of a threat as people make him out to be, like in the comics. So I get it, but honestly, The Penguin, one of my favorite shows of 2024, and what else I watched, we'll talk about the finale, but right now, I think we should wrap up the news and rip the band-aid off. I think we should get into Red 1 because I have so much to rant about. So let's do it. Let's get into Red 1. All right, Red 1 is a 2024 action comedy movie, 2 hours and 3 minutes for some reason. I have no clue why it was that long, but we'll talk about that. Currently has 7 out of 10 on IMDb. That's shocking. With a 34% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and 3 out of 10 on IGN. Google's in a nutshell: intense, rousing, and hilarious. All 3 of those absolutely incorrect. Oh my god. It's directed by Jake Kasdan, who's done like the Jumanji movies with The Rock, and it was written by Chris Morgan and Hiram Garcia. The film has a whopping budget of $250 million US dollars. Absolutely no reason for that. It's distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures, Amazon MGM, and Universal Pictures. I'm absolutely floored by its budget because this looks like the biggest slop fest I have ever seen. The synopsis for the story: after Santa Claus, codename Red One, is kidnapped, the North Pole's head of security must team up with the world's most infamous bounty hunter in a globe-trotting, action-packed mission to save Christmas. Also, its Letterboxd average rating is 2.6 with the mode rating 3 stars. The film stars, of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Callum Drift, Chris Evans as Jack O'Malley, J.K. Simmons as Nick, or Santa Claus, Lucy Liu as Zoe, Kiernan Shipka as Grilla, Bonnie Hunt as Mrs. Claus, Christopher Hivju as Krampus, Nick Kroll as Ted, Wesley Kimmel as Dylan, and Mary Elizabeth Ellis as Olivia, who you might know from It's Always Sunny. Oh boy, Red One, what can I say? Well, why should I talk about Red One when we can hear from The Rock himself? He's here in my dad's workshop recording. The Rock, what do you have to say about Red One?
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Dwayne. Look, Red One, if you're looking for a fun Christmas movie that you can throw on with the family, the kids are going to love it, the parents are going to laugh, but it's not too mature that the kids can't watch it, don't watch Red One. It's terrible. Dear Lordy, this was one of the year's worst. Oh my God. First strike for this movie, they lifted the embargo for the film on election night at 9 p.m. because they knew no one would be looking for the Red One reviews. Instead, they lifted the embargo at like peak election hours. So absolutely nuts. But hey, let's give it a chance. Let's try and be positive. It's almost the Christmas season. So let's talk about the performances. The Rock. I am getting sick of seeing this guy's face. I am so tired of him. His movies all are so predictable. I'm hoping that A24 film can rejuvenate his career and demonstrate to people that, hey, The Rock is not a completely useless actor. Maybe he could actually have a good performance once in a while. Like, this guy was one of the biggest movie stars ever, but now he's just churning out turd after turd after turd. I am so sick of seeing his movies, and every movie he's just doing the exact same thing. For a guy that preaches about hard work, determination, dedication, it's about drive, it's about power, we stay hungry, we devour, all that BS. He is one of the laziest actors I have watched in so long. And Mr. Chris Evans, don't think you're getting away scot-free on this, because his post-Endgame career has been atrocious. Knives Out is a beacon of light in the storm. Every other movie he's done has been extremely mediocre to terrible. Ghosted. This. The Gray Man. Chris Evans needs to fire his team. And the other day I was watching an interview with him at the Red One premiere, and he's like, I don't really think about my movies like having a cultural impact or a last. Why not? I raved about Knives Out last week, and I love his performance in that movie. Dude, people will hire you. Like, you were in Scott Pilgrim, a movie that tons of people love. You were Captain America. You were Captain America. You were in a Bong Joon-ho film. Snowpiercer's an awesome movie. You were in a Danny Boyle movie. You were in Sunshine. What the fuck are you doing, Chris Evans? I don't know. He is absolutely god-awful. Remember when he used to be someone? Holy shit. Him and The Rock, this is the biggest team-up of washed-up actors in a long time that I have watched. I was mesmerized how bad their chemistry is, how mismatched they are, how overproduced this movie is, and they are the perfect stars for such an overproduced mess, because this is the epitome of Hollywood stars that have given up on having a good career. Anyways, wow, I got a little fired up there. Okay, J.K. Simmons literally got paid to sleep in this movie. I'll talk more about spoilers, but he gets kidnapped. That's the whole story. He shows up for about 2 minutes in this movie, and he's asleep and knocked out for most of it. Lucy Liu, who I'm a huge fan of, really not that interesting, and all she does is just spew like scientific jargon, these acronyms about Christmas stuff to which Chris Evans has to react in his... This is the most Boston accent he's ever had in a movie as well, I will say that. Kiernan Shipka, my Mad Men homie. I think she's like a year younger than me. It's so weird now watching stars that are my age, but age catches up with us. She's wasted in this movie. Like everyone, I think there could have been a good movie here if the budget was way stripped back, the script was completely rewritten. I don't know, maybe a single actor in this movie gave a shit ever at any point. If if one actor said, come on guys, let's put some piss and vinegar into this one. Crazy. Everyone else is just non-existent. But, and this is going to sound mean, Wesley Kimmel, who plays his son, terrible. One of the worst performances I have seen this year. I'm going to keep saying this, but Hallmark movies look like Oscar winners compared to Red One. This is no joke. Like all those stories that were coming out about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson pissing in bottles, being 8 hours late. I think we talked about it on the podcast back in February, maybe, when that news came out, which I think he's like kind of confirmed that he pisses in bottles. Yikes. I don't know. I think he has kind of low-key confirmed some of those stories that, yeah, he runs late or whatever, but it all serves a purpose or something. Dude, was the journey worth the destination? Not at all. I can't believe the road we have come to in this movie. But look, let's talk about the story. Enough ranting about everyone's performances in this. You would think Santa's buff. It's a comedy with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's everyone's favorite family goofball, and Chris Evans. Oh, he was Captain America. He was great in Knives Out. You would think it's funny. The North Pole is literally Wakanda in this movie. They have a fucking dome. Wakanda is like, has a dome and like vibranium and everything is made like, I was shocked how the MCU-ification of this movie. They're literally making the North Pole Wakanda, this invisible shield that you go through and they can transport different places and stuff like that. I thought this was an MCU spin-off movie at Christmas time, but the story is so wasted. You have all these fun ideas. You would think they're cool. It's delivered in the most boring, unfunny CGI slop fest that's possible. I was actually bored in this movie. There were long stretches where I was like, Jesus, this is nothing. Nothing's happening here. The pacing is just awful. I looked at my watch when Chris Evans and The Rock first interact in this movie. And remember, we're non-spoilers. I'm not going to say any of the plot details or like specific events that occur. 45 minutes in, they first meet each other. That's their first contact with each other. All the posters, all the trailers, all the promotional materials, all the interviews are about Chris Evans and The Rock leading this big movie, Red One. For a 2-hour and 4-minute movie, I need my 2 stars to meet a little bit earlier if you don't mind. 40 minutes is way too long to finally get this mismatched chemistry energy. Like, we wait so long to see them finally meet up and get to be a team. And when they do, it's one big wet fart. It is so awful. There's 3 beginnings to this movie. And then I hit a certain scene and I was like, well, that should have been the start of the movie. There's 3 introductions to the story, and every time I was like, did the movie just restart? What just happened? What is going on? It's just the story is so clunky and overproduced, and it feels like there's so many algorithms and fingers in the pie of people being like, well, we need to put this in because this tested high and the XYZ and all this stupid stuff like that. But the runtime, yeah, 2 hours and 4 minutes, absolutely brutal. Like, there's just so many stretches where the jokes are just not landing. There's not really any action happening. They're just kind of talking to each other about general Christmas stuff or like about the mission they're going on. Oh my God, it was like crickets in my theater. I was very surprised. And like, I was in a semi-full theater. I saw this in Laser Ultra because that was the only available time slot that wasn't IMAX at this particular time. So saw it in Laser Ultra, which, you can't polish a turd. I think children are just going to be bored by this movie. I didn't know going in. I was like, yeah, I think this movie's for kids. And then I saw it and I was like, wait, is this for adults? I don't know who is the market target for this, because kids are going to be bored. There were quite a few children at this, and I don't know how they were entertained by this. Like, they were not particularly laughing at a lot of jokes, even the boomers and myself. Well, I didn't laugh at a single joke in this, and I know comedy is like subjective. This was one of the most unfunny comedies I have ever seen. Like, everyone, if you have Letterboxd, go read Cinema Joe's review. It's a hilarious review. It involves like Fortnite, slop, drooling, iPad kids. This is a very iPad kid movie. Like, this is what Netflix would call second screen entertainment. While you're folding laundry, while you're watching videos on your phone, you're scrolling TikTok and all your social media. This is what you would put on your TV while you're doing whatever, because this is not main screen entertainment. I can't believe that's the most brain rot sentence I've ever said, but there's just massive spans of time in this movie where really nothing's interesting or exciting is going on, and the actors are just phoning it in. And yeah, like I said, the comedy is so brutal in this. Chris Evans is so unfunny in this movie. It is a travesty. He's a very funny guy, and they absolutely butchered him. Every scene involves like someone saying a Christmas acronym, because you got to remember, these guys are like the head of security for the North Pole or whatever. So everyone's like, oh, I work for ELF. And Chris Evans is like, what? What's that? What's ELF? What the hell is going on? Every line or every second line is just Chris Evans saying what? Like, I was actually blown away why he's in this movie. And I saw another Letterboxd review that was like, this is the most Ryan Reynolds movie I've ever watched. I have to agree. I'm so blown away he didn't join this movie, because Chris Evans clearly beat him to the punch and got that contract signed and got a big payout to phone it in. Yeah, Chris, can you just do that line again? Yeah, sure. What? That's every line Chris Evans has in this movie. It's just him saying, what? The what? You work for the whatchamacallit? The what? Did that just happen? Every line is just, did that just happen? Like, this movie has a so that just happened line every 5 minutes. It's so frustrating to watch. It's like, shut up. I can't remember the last time I was annoyed at dialogue in a movie of brain rot, TikTok humor, not even TikTok humor, just like really bad trying to be MCU humor. That, like, the Jumanji movies are okay. I've watched them and I'm like, yeah, these are pretty enjoyable and pretty fun. But what's his name that did those movies? I can't remember. Jake something, whatever. Mesmerized at how unfunny this movie was. And I was like, watching the trailers, I was like, hey, it's going to be bad, but it's got to have at least some funny laughs in it with Chris Evans and The Rock. I'm sure they could turn it up a bit. But no, Jake Kasdan and everyone in this who was directed by him just sucks the funny out of the room. And the movie is so unfunny that the hardest I laughed during this is when someone probably 2 rows ahead of me farted incredibly loud during a quiet moment. I that was the only time I laughed in the theater, because I was like, yeah, that just sums up this theater experience. Some old guy farting 4 rows up and crumpling his Starburst package or whatever as he shoves it down his gullet. All right, let's talk about action, because, you know, it's a movie with The Rock. It's got Chris Evans, who was Captain America for like 10 years. You would think, all right, at least it's got some crazy action, right? Nope. When the action starts, it is so bland, honestly boring. Like, I was hoping maybe the action will turn it up here, but no, it's just like so shaky cam, disorganized. It's just like a PlayStation 2 cutscene. I was visually horrified by the CGI in this movie and the green screening here. The action isn't at any point exciting. It's just all blurry, gray, shaky, so you can't see anything that's really happening. And this whole movie is just an ugly, dark gray. Like, it's a very Netflix looking movie. It's a streaming movie. That's the only way I can describe this movie. I'm shocked it wasn't straight to streaming. $250 million. I would be hiding that budget, not letting it surface to the public, and I would be dumping this straight on streaming, because it is a load of crap. And the whole thing just looks like a commercial, or actually, when I got out, you know what it reminded me of? Remember on Saturday Night Live when Pedro Pascal hosted and they made that like gritty Mario trailer? That's what this movie looked like. The production value was honestly a compliment to SNL and being like, look, SNL, you guys can do the digital shorts that look just as good as a $250 million big budget Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie. Pat yourselves on the back, girl. It's just weird blur and all of the action, and you could not convince me anyone in this movie was ever on the same set. There were multiple scenes where I was convinced Chris Evans and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson are not in the same room right now. It looks like that movie Ghosted that no one watched, including myself. I did not watch that, but every trailer, you cannot tell me Ana de Armas and Chris Evans were on the same set. I'm convinced Chris Evans is shooting all of these movies from his garage. I think he has a green screen and he's refusing to come to set now because, dear God, every set, I was like, I can't tell who's interacting, who's actually able to like touch each other on the shoulder or whatever. There's only maybe 5% of this movie where I was like, okay, that looks like they're kind of in the same room or they're in the same Chevrolet truck. This whole thing just looks like terrible Facebook green screening. You know those people that post on like Facebook shorts or reels or whatever that are like, oh, I did the CGI scene in my own garage and it looks terrible. Well, kudos to them as well. Not only SNL, they're not the only ones that should pat themselves on the back because these people are apparently doing a great job. Speaking of car commercials, there's literally just two massive Chevrolet product placements. The first one being a Corvette and the second one being this big Chevy truck because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has the power to make these cars, like Hot Wheels cars, turn into real cars. The hierarchy of this car is about to change. That's my Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson impression. Yeah, it's just so obvious. Like if you thought, something that dragged down the Barbie movie movie was that Chevy commercial. Boy, oh boy, wait till you watch Red 1 because you will be blown away how obvious it is. There was one scene where, and I'm not giving it anything away, where The Rock and Chris Evans are walking around the truck and the shot starts like almost centered in on the Chevy logo and then zooms out on them. Maybe that was another time that I laughed in the theater. I can't remember. It was so far and few between the moments where I laughed, if any. I thought Michael Bay must be a producer on this because the product placements are mesmerizing. Chevy must have paid so much money to get their vehicles in there. The ugliest car placements. They look brand new, pristine. I was seriously blown away. I mean, just the cinematography of this entire movie looks like a car commercial or those SNL shorts. It's insane how ugly this movie is. Just looks terrible. It's depressing to look at. All of the colors look so brightly saturated, gross. Like, I don't know, just Instagram filter from 2015 is the only way I can really describe it. And like the humor is just weird, random brain rot that you would have seen on the Ellen DeGeneres show 10 years ago of like these slap competitions that's shown in the trailer. Like we have a 15-minute scene where they're at a slap competition with this big beast, and like that's the only part of the movie that has anything practical with the makeup on everyone in that room. And it just, okay, we're doing a slap competition. I guess that's what the humor is of this movie. Sure. I don't know, dude. I'm dumbfounded at the comedy in this movie. The comedy is all about like the first scene or the second scene or something like that has an influencer who tries to cut the line at Santa's visitation in the mall or whatever. And it's just like classic boomer humor of like, oh, look at that stupid influencer trying to cut in front of everyone. They haven't worked a day in their life. And it's just, it's so insane that this script passed, and or that it made it to like, yeah, we're going to get a theatrical run for Red 1. We're going to fill up screens and IMAX, and this is going to take the top spot. And what I can also say is this is very much a battle of egos. Every scene involves everyone just getting beat up by The Rock or being intimidated by The Rock. Everyone's constantly commenting on how big he is or like being scared by him and him just looking all stoically at the camera. It's like, you're not acting, you're just staring at the camera. It's nothing interesting. And we all know about the claws that The Rock has, okay? Let me take you back. It's Fast and Furious, and we're finally getting Vin Diesel and The Rock throwing down. It apparently came to light that I believe The Rock has a clause in his contracts on movies that he can't be beaten in fights in movies. So anytime he's in a fight, he can't let anyone like get the upper hand on him. So I'm so chronically online that I know about that clause in his contracts. Anytime there was a fight, I'm like, yeah, they're going to win this. He's going to find a way out of it. And I'm not spoiling anything, but keep that in mind when you're watching the movie because it takes a lot of the adrenaline and thrill out of any fight. It's like The Rock, you're so washed up. We know what the rule is when you're fighting. I can only hope that the Safdie brothers, or the Safdie brother, whichever one is directing him, I think it's Benny in The Wrestler. Is that what it's called? It is kind of funny that the Safdie brothers are doing separate sports movies for A24 with Marty Supreme and The Wrestler. But yeah, The Rock, it's so tiring seeing him in movies. That's the only thing I can say. It's just any project that it's like starring The Rock, my eyes just roll into the back of my head. I'm like, oh God, I have to suffer through 2 hours of The Rock constantly beating up people, flexing his muscles, being in tight shirts, tight leather, everyone being scared of him and being like, wow, look how big that guy is. Dude, I'm so over it. Like, it's not funny. The Jumanji movies, we almost saw The Rock have humor in those. And then the whole DC thing happened with Black Adam where he got on his power trip, and unfortunately, we are seeing that play out in his other projects because this one, it just feels like everyone's worshiping him the entire movie and being like, wow, The Rock, you're so impressive. You're so amazing. And then like you just have Chris Evans in the background being like, the whatchamacallit? The who? The what? The what? What's the ELF? Is that an elf? Is that a snowman? Is that a sled? Santa Claus? That's every scene with Chris Evans, and it's embarrassing to watch. Maybe my biggest issue with this project is just I'm struggling to understand who is this for. What is there to learn from this project? Chris Evans is a deadbeat dad in this movie. So is this a movie about fatherhood? Is it about like seeing the Christmas spirit? Is it about being scared of The Rock? What is there to learn about this movie? There's no message. There's no takeaway in the end of the movie. I don't know who this is for. Like I said, kids are going to be so bored watching Red 1. No kid is going to scroll onto this and be like, haha, funny snowman. If they do scroll onto it, click it, start watching it, within 10 minutes, I guarantee you they're going to be so bored because nothing happens in this movie. It's just scene after scene of The Rock and Chris Evans just struggling to show any charisma in this super over-stylized, overproduced, gray CGI slop fest that I absolutely hated. This is not a movie for kids. This is not a movie for parents either. Everyone in my theater was so unimpressed. Like, it was actually amazing how little the laughs were, and every time there was a laugh, it was a struggle to get it out, and then it died out so quickly. And I was just like, oof, this is not playing well. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I was in a movie where it played so badly with the audience. Like, Madam Web didn't play bad with the audience because it was me and like 2 other people in that theater. Megalopolis played really well because everyone was dying laughing, and all the rest of my really bad movies this year have either been like streaming movies like Rebel Moon, or actually The Crow played in theaters as well, and I don't know, it didn't really have a reaction. There was that really handsy couple in front of me, but like, what else can I say? I mean, the only thing I liked is they had a Leve song in it at one point when they got in a car. Christmas music came on, and I was like, oh shit, like Leve, let's go, one of my favorite artists, and she probably made a decent amount of money off of this $250 million movie. So Leve, let's go, get paid, girl. Proud of her. Look, overall, this is one of the worst movies I have watched this year. It's currently in my bottom 5 out of 64 movies, that I've seen this year. So go on my Letterboxd and see where it ranks. It's in the bottom 5, so you have to scroll pretty far down. I think this movie will be forgotten about in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it made a lot of money at the box office because, like, I saw it opening night and there were a lot of families and a couple of old people. Like, that's one amazing thing about The Rock is as shitty of an actor as he is, and as worse of an actor he's getting over the years, and as bad as his movies are, his movies make money. You can guarantee most of his movies seem to be making a lot of money. I don't know. I can't remember how Black Adam did. I think it did okay, or like it made a profit or something like that, which I don't believe. And apparently Red Notice everybody in the world was watching for 4 years straight on Netflix, despite them not putting those streaming numbers out. But yeah, look, overall, would I recommend this? Absolutely not. Save your money. Don't see this. How many times on this podcast, this is episode 44, how many times have I said, don't watch this movie? Like, there's been bad movies, like Madam Web, I think, yeah, watch it. It's like kind of funny, or, you know, wait for it to go to streaming. Megalopolis, I think I recommended because it's such an experience, but Red 1, I wouldn't recommend at all. This is one, avoid it like the plague. At Christmas time, there's so many other great Christmas movies to watch. I'm going to watch Wonka. I'm going to watch The Holdovers. I'm going to watch the animated The Grinch, or the live action with Jim Carrey. I'm going to watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I'm going to watch Elf. There's so many amazing Christmas movies like It's a Wonderful Life that you could be watching over Red 1, because this is a steaming pile of dog shit. Unbelievable. Skip it. I gave it 1.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. Let's get into spoilers. Oh my god, okay, spoilers for Red 1. I don't really know how much there is to spoil. I got stuff to talk about. Okay, so the whole point of the movie is like The Rock, Cal, he wants to retire because he's kind of become depressed and only sees the world as naughty, because every year they say like 20% of the nice list is ending up on the naughty list. It's just, I don't really get, then there would be literally no nice list anymore. It's just crazy how fast apparently everyone is joining the naughty list. And that line where he said that, and The Rock is trying to, so Cal is trying to convey to Nick, he's handed in his resignation letter. They're about to do overhead press with like 4 weights on each side, so like 100 pounds on each side of the bar. And Cal is like, I just don't know, Nick. It's the world's getting bad. Wars, things are worse than ever. All the other stuff. I was blown away by the dialogue. Like, you can't name one more thing. Everyone's angry, and he's like, oh, it's not the kids, it's the adults. That part I agree with. Adults are pretty bad, but kids are equally terrible. Kids are pretty bad, to be honest. But is it worse than ever? We used to pillage and enslave each other. Like, at least now people are pushing for progress and like rights and stuff like that. The world is more angry, but that's just because we have social media where people can post how angry they are. It was just such a weird line where he's saying why he wants to get out of the game. And damn, that was a very generic way to say the world is bad. Like, oh, things are worse than ever. Wars, the other stuff. It felt like an SNL line or like a Flight of the Conchords type humor. Oh yeah, the villain. I didn't even mention the villain in non-spoilers, but the reason the witch played by Kiernan Shipka, Grilla, I think is her name. Oh, also if you say her name, she can hear you. Weird powers. But the reason she wants to kidnap Santa is she needs his energy to produce snow globes that trap the naughty people inside of those snow globes. Okay, sure. I guess. What the hell? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, I'm like, okay, but why does she hate Santa? Like, what? She's just a witch. That's the only thing that she hates Santa for. Like, she doesn't have any bigger plan than that. I just need to capture and trap all of the naughty people in the world. I don't know. It just felt like super, oh yeah, we should probably get a villain in there. And then someone threw around an idea of like, oh, let's just make it a witch. And oh, she's also an 18-foot troll and she transforms into a witch. All right, man, whatever you say, dude, whatever you say. Kiernan Shipka's hardly in this as well. I think she maybe only has 3 or 4 scenes, and every time she's just chewing scenery and giving like generic witch dialogue, and her wig is really bad. Again, it's SNL, or at least I think it's a wig. You can see a very clear line where her makeup ends and her wig starts to me. But yeah, her villain's kind of weird. Like, I don't really get why she's the villain, or I can't remember any particular motivational reason. Like, I feel like it would have been Santa Claus's brother is in this. He's a huge, like, I don't know, demon type thing where he has horns, and I don't even know how to explain him. It's really weird that like Santa's brother is not human and he's this big animal with horns and stuff like that, and he lives in an evil castle. So he's the one that, or Santa created a naughty and nice list, or no, the brother did. One of them made the naughty and nice list and like came up with the idea of tracking who's naughty. And I think Santa's the one that didn't like that because he wanted to see the good in everyone, of course. So here's my pitch for this movie. It would have been much more interesting if the brother was the one that kidnapped Santa Claus and was the one that wanted to hand out snow globes that make you get trapped in a snow globe. Like, that's much more interesting to me, of having the brothers go against each other rather than this random witch who dated Santa's brother. That's just not that fascinating to me. So I don't know. I think there's just like a lot of easy fixes in this script of like, well, have you guys considered this? Like, it would be 10 times more interesting, which all those, 10% increments over time really do add up to be much more fascinating. But again, like, just random slop that someone wrote down and no one ever checked the script of being like, oh, well, what if we make the brother the villain? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. But Chris Evans is hilariously bland. His character is so bland. The Gray Man, yeah, that's him, because I swear to God, he has not had an interesting character in years. He hasn't had an interesting character since like Avengers Endgame. It's just, it's mind-blowing. Like, his son goes missing in a concert because he gets sucked into a snow globe that the witch sends. The mom doesn't really seem to care. Like, and at the end of the movie, when they call her to be like, Mom, I'm okay, I think she's like wrapping gifts, or she's just at home and didn't really seem that concerned. She's like, oh, where were you? It's like, wait, wouldn't you have been at the concert? Did you not call the cops? I didn't really get that section. I was like, she doesn't seem like she was that stressed that whole time. She was just kind of, oh, okay. And even when the kid gets, Dylan or whatever his name is, gets sucked into the snow globe, the other kids at the recital don't really seem to notice or pay attention. I was just like, where are the police? Where is anyone's concern for this child? It's just kind of mind-blowing that a movie about like Christmas and caring about family and trying to get back together with family, and oh, his dad's a deadbeat, but at least his mom loves him. Nah, the mom just didn't really care. She was like, oh, my kid's missing, better go home and wrap some gifts. And yeah, like I said, there's really 3 opening scenes. So Jack is doing this heist where he's like getting this seismic measurement thing. I don't know. He's the one that sets up the ability for the evil witch to find Santa and enter Wakanda. Oh, sorry, I mean the North Pole. Yeah, so Jack does the heist, and then it's like Jack picking up his kid from school, and then there's also Santa at the mall, but then there's Santa and everybody getting back to the North Pole. It's just, there's really 4 openings. I would have started this movie with maybe the mall scene where, I don't know, somehow you have Jack at the mall, like he's meeting someone at the mall and he swipes their ID card or something, and I don't know, it's just like, I feel like there's a much more interesting way that you could have our characters interacting or all kind of being together, because Jack is supposed to be like this amazing hacker. He's a bounty hunter, apparently. Like, yeah, he beats some people up, but he also just seemed much more like a random dude. I swear, he's playing the same guy in Ghosted as he is in this, like guy who gets looped into, I don't know, this weird heist thing. But I just think, again, there's a much more interesting story here to be told, where you have Jack, he runs into Santa and he's like, oh, get out of my way, Santa Claus, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson's there as well. Oh my God, they met each other. Like, oh, I recognize you. You're that asshole from the mall. It's just, the first half hour is just really boring. and then it takes 40 minutes for them to even meet each other. It's just, it's nothing. And like, there's a big, ugly CGI final fight. Felt totally unnecessary in a Christmas movie to have this Avengers level fight at the end. And the movie is just like really struggling to decide who its hero is. Is this a story about Chris Evans? No, it's The Rock. Or is it about the brother because he's the one that saves the day? Who is our star here? Who is our hero? It's painful to see a script just crumbling under the star power of the stars it's employing. They really don't know who their hero is in this story, because the final fight has like The Rock getting his star moment, Chris Evans getting his star moment, then they get beat up and the brother comes in, saves the day, and Santa's like, oh, why don't you stick around a while? And then the brother just doesn't. Okay, he just leaves. So yeah, just a really weird ending. And then Chris Evans and his son go on the trip at the end, and they're all just standing in this really disgusting CGI green screen, apparently on the sled as they're going back to the North Pole. It was, dude, the weirdest ending. Okay, we just get a big montage of Santa going house to house. When is this movie about Santa, or is this movie about The Rock and Chris Evans? Again, you got to pick who your hero is. It's just so unclear of who this story is about. And like, the movie's not even trying to have a really hopeful ending. By the time you get there after 2 hours, you're so bored, you're so tired, you're so uneven with like all of the jokes that just haven't landed in the last 2 hours that you just don't care anymore. I just want it to be taken out back and put down. Like, you know me, I've said it how many times on this podcast, I hate the word boring, but this is a movie that earns that right to be called boring. Overall, I think that's really all I can say. Maybe a shorter spoiler section this week, because this was just such a colossal turd of a movie. Don't see this. Watch Anora, a movie that I've thought about every day for the last week, and I've really just grown fond of, and I still want to see a second time. Watch The Wild Robot. Watch small things like these. Watch anything else, because this was terrible. All right, let's move on to what else I watched. I want to talk about some stuff I liked. Okay, tons to get through in what else I watched. Let's start with books. I read The Flash Move Forward Volume 1. I recorded a review of it for TikTok, which I will post next week. I think I'm going to do it once a week, try and drop a comic book specific video on all the social medias. I really liked it. I've never read a Flash comic, so this was my first time reading a Flash comic. I think the only really Flash stuff I've dabbled in is the animated Flashpoint movie, which I really liked, and I watched maybe the first 4 seasons of the Flash TV show on the CW, which for those first 2 seasons was really good. People got to give that show credit. Grant Gustin, right? He plays the Flash. He's really good those first 2 seasons. But yeah, The Flash Move Forward. It's the volume 1 of the New 52 run. I'm going to start volume 2 this week. I really like his relationship with Patty, relationship with Dr. Elias. He's like 5 years into being the Flash, so he's still kind of new to it, but there's still powers that he's unaware he can control, or he's still learning about the Speed Force. Like any good Flash story, it has to involve the Speed Force. Like I've learned from the Flash TV show, it's always about the Speed Force. So I really liked it. If you've never read a Flash comic, I would recommend starting there because it was a lot of fun. Okay, TV shows, because I did watch lots of TV shows. What We Do in the Shadows, season 6, episode 5, amazing. It's all about Nandor like running away and gathering this army of random people, and everybody thinks he's going crazy because he was just fired by Guillermo. And it was just really funny. Great humor. I really like that they changed the opening theme song for the movie to be like a True Detective type thing. I think this season is just, and it's the final season, it's really finishing on a strong note. I think the performances are really good. And it's weird because like I feel like they've really brought fresh dynamics by implementing that new workplace that Guillermo's in and everyone else was kind of in for a little while there. I'm kind of bummed it's ending, and they're bringing in a lot of great new players that I've enjoyed. All right, some more stuff. SNL with host Bill Burr. An okay episode. It was I was excited because it's like the first post-election episode. I thought his monologue had a couple jokes that I was like, ugh, that's not done in great taste, but I still thought there was some funny stuff in the episode. I thought the bald sketch was really funny. The final sketch of the night where the wife just tells this joke like 4 times in a row and nobody ever laughs was the most I think you should leave sketch I have seen on SNL in so long. It was really funny. I enjoyed it. That new cast member, I think her name is something Paladin, Sarah Paladin. I'm not sure I'm getting that correct, but she killed it. And she actually got a lot of sketches. And yeah, it was an okay episode. I don't think it was my favorite of the season. Charlie XCX is this weekend, or her episode will be done by the time this is coming coming to you guys, dropping, as the kids say, as Conan O'Brien would say. And yeah, but we also wrapped up The Penguin. Great show. Like I said, my favorite show of 2024. Amazing. We've already got some details about the Batman Part 2. Matt Reeves, he's been very limited in what he's saying. He's tried to explain why Batman isn't in the show at all. He doesn't show up, but that was public knowledge before, so don't get your hopes up. It's a big city. Like, it's kind of been a disaster in Gotham because places are flooded and hard to get to, so the Batman is trying to help out in different locations. Like, I don't think he's responding to the police even, or the bat signal. And yeah, just a really great finale. I think the show just got stronger as it went on through the season, and I'm fully expecting Colin Farrell and Kristen Milioti, I'm not sure how to say her last name. I'm fully expecting both of them to win Emmys because I think they both give Emmy-worthy performances. And the guy who plays Vic, really good in a supporting role, and the mother as well, who plays Frances, really good too. So look, just overall, The Penguin was a knockout show. And if you haven't checked it out, I would encourage you, watch The Batman, watch The Penguin. You could probably watch The Penguin without watching The Batman as well. Like, I don't see why you would want to, because if you like the Batman, you would love the Penguin. But by itself, just an amazing show with amazing writing. Okay, I also caught up on Marvel stuff, Marvel TV this week. What If Season 2, episodes 4 to 9. My favorite was the Avengers in 1602. I thought that was a really fun episode. What If is like a pretty fun show. It's kind of crazy that they're ending with 3 seasons because I feel like there's a billion ideas they could have, and yet they're just ending with season 3. I don't know. But yeah, the Avengers 1602 episode was really fun. Yeah, decent show. Then I watched the limited series Echo. Not a huge fan. I thought it was okay, but it's kind of just feels like this forgotten thing that they greenlit, and then once it started, they were like, oh yeah, we gotta make this. Like, Daredevil shows up for 20 seconds. It was just not really interesting to me. And then I finally, after that, got to Agatha All Along. My plan was to catch up on Marvel TV so I could watch Agatha All Along. It was pretty decent. Like, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't as boring as I thought it was gonna be. It was pretty funny in moments. I like that they had just like different magic stuff every episode. That was kind of great. I thought the cast was good. Everybody is pretty awesome in it. Agatha is like a very fun character. But again, it feels like another show that they greenlit, and then by the time it comes around, people are like, oh, do we really want this? And Marvel's like, why did we greenlight this again? So I don't know. They kind of set up a season 2, but I personally don't really care if we get that. But let's move on to the big one of the week that I want to talk about, Survivor 47, episode 9, I think it's 9 or 10. Oh, Saul, my boy Saul, a character, a cast member I was growing to love week by week. Saul was a lot of fun. He had to deal with Rome every week. I feel like they really sewered him. An absolutely chaotic tribal council, really good challenges. Andy is seriously making a comeback, and I'm loving his character arc this season. And my girlfriend and I were talking about it, like, it's so refreshing to see someone have a meltdown in episode 1 and actually get back into the game. Like, he's not just being Banu and being annoying for 4 episodes. No offense to Banu, but he was a disaster to watch. I'm really loving 47. I think game-wise, it's a very strong season, in my opinion. I think Rachel explained her move very well. She played her shot in the dark, saw how everyone reacted. Didn't seem like anyone really reacted, so she's like, I don't need to play my idol. I don't think it's me tonight. And it wasn't. She perfectly explained that. Okay, finally, let's get to movies. My girlfriend and I are watching the Best Picture winners year to year, starting in 1930, because the first 3 we either couldn't find, and then the first one was a silent film, and we were like, oof, we're a little too brain rotted for a silent film. Maybe I'll watch them on my own. But so we started with All Quiet on the Western Front from 1930. It is an English version, of course, or American version, I guess. I really liked it. She really liked it as well. She hadn't seen the new one. I've seen the new one a few times, which I really enjoy as much as I think it is probably a worse adaptation of the book. But for a movie from 1930, I think it's doing a lot of fun and innovative things and really showcasing war pretty well. Like, the performances are pretty decent and like quite layered, and I think it adapts the book very well. It shows kind of a lot more of the intricate things. Yeah, if you haven't watched the All Quiet on the Western Front from 1930, I actually think it's pretty good. It's on Tubi, which is just an amazing streaming service that's free. Can't believe it's free. Go check it out. Okay, I also watched 2 movies in theaters this week. I went to 2 movies on Monday night last week. Heretic, first of all, a horror thriller movie, much more of a thriller and theological exploration action movie than a horror, I would say. My favorite thing about the movie, Hugh Grant. He's giving a crazy performance, just bouncing off the walls, hilarious. Does a crazy Jar Jar Binks impression that I was blown away by because of how bad it was. Maybe it doesn't lean into the horror enough for me, but I don't know. I was expecting it to be a horror movie, but it was one of those movies like Red One where I've seen the trailer for this movie for 9 months in the theaters now, and it was nice to just finally see it and have it be out of the way. So, also just quickly, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East were really good in it as well, but I think they're just so overshadowed by Hugh Grant's monologuing, but it does present a lot of really great character moments where they're presenting theological questions, and I love those discussions of religion and their purpose and, I don't know, interpretations and stuff like that. Really fun. Finally, Small Things Like These, a very small Irish film with Cillian Murphy about unwed mothers in the Irish church. I don't want to say too much. Really great movie. Gave it 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. If you want to go see something small, it's like under 2 hours. If you want to see something that's educational as well, go watch it. It does toe the line of like savior movie in some moments, but for the most part, I think it was really well done. And that's been what else I watched. And you know what? It's late. It's 12:30 a.m. I think that's going to do it for episode 44, Red One. Dear God, what a week. What an episode. I can't believe it's come and gone. Red One. What did you think of it? Get in touch with me. As always, rate and review the show. Review it 5 stars. Drop a positive review or a comment. If you're on Spotify, you can comment. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give it a 5-star rating and a review underneath. It might be read on the show. Spotify has ratings as well. Give it 5 stars there, as well as on Amazon Music and Acast. We are an Acast produced show. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know every time there's new videos or podcasts out and shorts. Comment down below what you thought of Red One. What's your favorite Christmas movie? I'd love to hear what people are watching at Christmas time. You can also email the show, watcherofallthings@gmail.com, or follow on social media. TikTok is watcher.of.all.things, and then Threads and Instagram are just @watcherofallthings. I also got a Blue Sky account this week because I'm like, am I going to leave X at some point? So I don't know. If I keep using it, I'll link it below, but otherwise I'm not going to. My personal Letterboxd account, you can follow me, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me on there. Drop a comment under one of my reviews to say you found me through the show, and I will absolutely follow you back. Let's build a little fun community of Red One watchers. Next week, Gladiator 2. I'm very excited. It's getting a lot of interesting reviews, mostly positive, I will say. So it's not going to be Wicked next week. I think I only have time for Gladiator 2. I'm going to see Wicked eventually, but I won't do an episode on it. But as I say every week, I'm so grateful you guys are listening to this. I'm so appreciative of all the interaction I get. Let me know what you're looking forward to seeing at Christmas time, and I will see you in the next one.